work to do, you mean?
Yeah, multiple projects. I mean, multiple things happen at the same time. Some new consulting work. I'm working on 2 books.
Exciting.
Developing a new workshop. Just normal keeping up with students and coursework and social media and everything else. So
busy.
Okay.
Good problems to have. But it looks like we're live, so I'm just going to get started with a quick intro about why we're here today before we jump in. But hi, folks. Great to have all of you here, and thank you for joining our live stream. Joe and I have done this once before, and it was immensely popular, so we thought we'd come back and review some of your portfolios live. Brave souls who have submitted those, so thank you for doing that. We promise to be as kind as possible, but also give you the critical feedback you will need to try to improve your portfolio and really make the most of it in this tough hiring environment. So excited to jump into that. Before we do, quick intros on both our sides. Who are we? I'm Kritika. I'm the co-founder of Looppanel. We've built a product that makes it 5 times faster for you to go from user interviews to insights. Joe, would you like to give a quick plug about yourself as well?
Sure. I mean, most people know I'm a UX consultant. I've been working with companies to improve product experience for the last 30 years of my life. But in that time, I've also spent a great deal of time hiring people, working with recruiters, helping companies staff up, helping companies review portfolios and resumes. So I've had a good long look at what recruiters and hiring managers look at in order to even consider someone for an interview. So I'm just looking to share what I know and help people out, because it's tough out there.
It is tough out there. And so folks, in case you missed it, like between the two of us, I think we would have seen like over 1,000 resumes and portfolios. So we're trying to bring all of that knowledge
Easily
and advice to you so that you don't have to learn it the hard way. But yeah, are you ready to jump in, Joe?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So we got, I think, over 150 portfolio submissions. We will not be able to go through all today, sadly.
No.
Probably not. We tend to go over on time in general, but we will be randomly selecting portfolios out of the list. So stay tuned in the session. You never know, yours might be next. And let us know if you have specific questions in the chat as well, and we'll try to answer them as we go. Shout out to Jason, who is joining to support his wife. That's amazing. Glad to
Very
see
cool.
kind of support out there as well. So thank you, Jason, for joining.
Very, very cool.
Cool. So I'm going to get started with the first randomly selected, and I'm just going to share my screen. So give me a second while that loads. And share. Are you able to see my screen, Joe?
I see it.
Okay, great. So we're going to jump in with our first researcher's portfolio. I'm going to give you a second to process, and then we can jump in with specific thoughts and questions. Do you have anything off the top of your head that you want to start with?
Of course.
Yeah, I know. I was just laying that groundwork because I knew there was something happening up there. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know me. My wheels are always turning. Yeah, the first thing that jumps out of me is the photo.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice photograph. It's at the beach, but it's incredibly serious. It's incredibly dark. It's like film noir. Like there's an intense thing happening to me right now. Not what you want to present rather to recruiters. You want to be open. You want to be friendly. If you have a shot of you in action, actually doing the work, right? Working on a whiteboard or giving a talk or something, it's always better, right? You want to try to, when you present an image, you want that person who's seeing it to imagine you in the role that you're trying to go for, right? So if I see a shot of you working, I think, okay, this person has experience. These are subliminal things and they happen really quickly, but they're very important. Okay. So image really is everything. Just like the background behind that, give me something meaningful if possible.
I would add 2 things to that. I've noticed, number one, often during hiring, there's this sort of, it's called the airport test, which is like, would you want to spend time with this person in an airport, which is a short way of saying a culture interview or something like that.
Yeah, I like that.
And so when you first put yourself out there and you do put maybe an image of yourself, the person on the other side who's looking at it is thinking, do I want to hang out with this person if we're stuck at an airport together? lots of a meeting or like stuck in the office together. And so what is the energy you want the other person to imagine? Like, is this somebody that's going to be really fun and easy to work with? And ideally try to portray that. So that's number one. The other thing, which was really interesting, that someone told me recently, was that they were reviewing a portfolio. And I'm mentioning this because it starts with an image. That portfolio or that case study actually started with a video of customer testimonial for that designer. And the customer was saying, oh my God, this is, they built this product that had such a big impact. It was so amazing. And what I heard from that hiring manager was, hey, that was really powerful because it started off with something that told me this person is really impactful in their work. And so just think about that as well when you are building the first impression of your portfolio. How can you ideally showcase that upfront if you're using visuals, if you're using, so either show your personality, like Joe said, in a way that passes that airport test, and or put out something that immediately just catches the person's eye, is unexpected, and says, hey, I'm really good at my job, actually.
And it's meaningful. Okay. It's meaningful. Anything a client says about you or a former employer says about you carries infinitely more weight than anything you're going to say about yourself. So if you have a testimonial, get it in there up front, up here in this header. Okay. Look at all the dead space we have in this header. We got the initials at the left and about work resume. There's a huge dead space here you're not doing anything with. So again, if you have a portfolio, you put a quote there, or you put a video in the center here or something. The other thing that's not happening here, right? There's no content on this screen that says, here's what I've enabled, here's what I've made better, here's what I've improved, here are the results I've gotten for the companies I've worked for so far, or here's the kind of problems I solve. Something meaningful. If you don't have any work experience, obviously you can't say here's the companies I've worked for, but you can say here are the kinds of problems I solve for businesses. It's not enough. I've said this before. It's not enough to tell me you're a UX researcher, designer, you inform your design process, you're a social science. Okay. Not that it doesn't matter. I'm not trying to be rude.
Yeah.
It matters a hell of a lot less than something that's tangible. It says to a recruiter, been there, done that, can do this work. I'm focused on problems that help employers. Okay. That's who you're selling to. You're selling to employers. You're not selling to other designers. This impresses other designers and UXers. It says nothing of value to a recruiter or a company or a hiring manager.
Yeah. So basically we're saying instead of this text, that's somewhat generic because every person who applies to this role can say that. Is there something unique, something impactful, maybe the customer testimonial that you can put up front that has a big impact? I will say I like that there are quick links to LinkedIn and stuff like that right here, because that is, I would sometimes want to pick on those. So that's helpful to have right next door.
Agreed.
Cool. There seems to be, so this is the homepage of the portfolio.
Let's see what's below there.
Yeah. A social science researcher with a passion for content strategy fell in love with you.
That's nice. That timeline is really nice. I like that idea. I don't know that it belongs in front of the work.
Yeah.
But I love this idea. It's a really quick way.
Yeah.
To go through that person's history, and see at a glance, done this, done this, done this, done this. Okay. In 3 seconds, that tells me that you've been working since 2016. Yeah.
Actually,
it also shows some creativity, which is nice.
I wanted to look a little bit deeper into the content of the timeline. Okay, one is the placement of the timeline, second is the content. Yeah. If we had impact upfront here, like testimonial, something that shows what I've done, is this the second thing we want the recruiter to see, or does this come actually still a little bit low in the process?
No, just like up above, I think it says something about my work. What's the link up at the top? Oh, latest work. We've both said this before, right? Yeah. So let's say it again. Don't make me work for your case studies. Yes. Bring them up right now on this screen. The minute I come here, I want to see them. I want to see the summaries right now in my field of vision. Don't make me scroll for them. Don't make me click something to go get them. Yeah. It's the first thing that every recruiter cares about. All of this artifice of, it's like the intro to a movie. All right. People who do portfolios assume that this is like the opening credits. You have a really impressive visual sequence that gets people interested. It does not work that way. You got to give me content right now that I care about. Skip the intro.
I was
Get it in my field of vision.
One good analogy for that is that when I'm watching a TV show, I always skip the intro. So if you do that too, think of it like that and say, okay, like get to the good stuff right up top. And
it's just not stuff anybody cares about.
Okay. Yeah, it's also like, I think we said this last time as well. It's like a landing page for any product or website. So you have to build enough value and curiosity up top to ask the person to invest any further. And in general, people spend, I'm not talking about portfolios in specific, but on websites, and this is a website at the end of the day, people spend 30 seconds to decide if they want to invest further or not. So in that 30 seconds, are you telling them, hey, I have done some really cool stuff and I can do this job really well or not? And that needs to be above the fold. So to Joe's point, before I click anything or scroll anywhere.
And to piggyback on your point, okay, most recruiters that I know to this day will tell you they have about 30 seconds to spend evaluating a candidate. That's it. Okay. You have a 30-second window to give me something that says this person's worth another 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That's what you're after here. Does that, is that terrible? Does that suck? Yes, it is, it's bad. Yeah. But that's reality. So you got to give them something that says this person might be a fit for this job now, immediately. Yeah.
So let's actually jump into the latest work because I'm curious about that. Okay, it looks like this button doesn't take you to any other page, which is
my, that's bad.
Don't do that.
See, and right now, let's just say this out loud. Again, I know you're gonna think I'm picking on you. I'm not. The minute that happens, the minute somebody clicks something and it does not work and they don't get what they expect, they're gone. That recruiter is gone right now. Not giving you a second look, not going to try again, not going to scroll. They're gone.
Yeah.
You can't afford to not have things work.
So, okay, so let's try instead we'll go to the work section here because I think that's probably what that's supposed to link to.
Yep.
All right. Cool.
I don't know if that slow load is just a bandwidth issue, but if the site is actually taking that long to load, that's a problem as well. I would look into that.
Yeah, I will give one caveat. I'm on slower, like my laptop is slower this week, so that may be me. But if it's not, then yes, definitely something to look at. As I'm looking at this page, there's a couple things I'm seeing and a couple things I'm not. Number one, I'm seeing that there is a bunch of work in UX research, which is awesome. What I'm not seeing is like, okay, you're telling me the industries and the roles you worked in. But again, like we talked about, what is that impact? Put that here. Don't make me click in to try to find out what that is.
Absolutely. Outcome has to be there.
Outcome. Anything else that's standing out to you in?
Yes. There's way too much dead space at the top. That's just being wasted with that sentence. A collection of my most recent projects. Yeah. Just there's no reason for that. The other thing is, who are these companies? Is this real work for real organizations? If it is, those names need to be in there. Okay. And anytime you choose an image for a case study, the image should be relevant to the story you're telling. It can't just be a generic stock photo. Yeah. Okay. Give me a shot of a sketch that you did while you were doing that work, or a process diagram that you created to figure something out, or if it's UI design, for example, show me the UI design, but show me something related to the work. Don't just give me a stock photo. Yeah.
I am also looking at this and it says lead UX researcher on every card, which is then just remove that because that's not, it's the same. But I'm curious, when you talked about industry piece, it may be that, so there could be two cases, right? There may be times, and I'm thinking more of like agencies and stuff like that, where some of that is like, you're not allowed to maybe talk about what work you did. How would you handle that if not by saying manufacturing B2C? Because it sounds like these are like AI, ML, B2B, e-commerce, B2C, like these sound like it's not a made up thing. It's like actual work.
Yeah.
It may be a redacted name.
So for what reason? They can't mention the actual company?
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming. But maybe you're.
If that's the case, then you do this. You say, here's the industry. But B2B isn't necessarily an industry. Okay. An industry is finance, manufacturing, healthcare, retail. You know what I mean? Don't mix B2B, B2C type stuff. The other huge thing that's missing here is your headline for each case study can't just be user experience research. Your headline should never be the work that you did. Your headline should be solved this problem for this type of organization. Okay. Made this better, got this result for this type of company or this type of product or whatever it is. Again, it's a headline. The purpose of a headline is to give me a hint as to what's inside.
Yeah.
You cannot count on the fact that anyone's going to click through to see more. That headline has to tell the story along with those 3 lines. And because I'm being overly critical here, I want to say something positive. And that is, I like the quick industry, this, my role, this, process, this. That's the right format.
Yeah.
Okay. And I harp on people all the time to do this. And for some reason, they don't do it. But that's the way to do this. I'm just, to your point, what's missing is something that says outcome or impact, right? This happened first, and then the other things. Are any of these clickable, by the way?
Yes, it looks like the text isn't clickable, but the images. So I'm going to click in.
Okay, so let's.
Yes.
You've got to give me a clear link, clear, obvious link that says click me, a button, a something, underlined, hyperlinked text. Nothing here appears to be clickable. There's 2 problems with that. Number one, it doesn't communicate to the reviewer that they can actually, look at something. Number 2, it makes that person think that maybe your command of UX isn't as good as it should be.
That's true.
Right? Because one of the first rules of user experience, interaction design, UI design is that opportunities to interact have to be visible and obvious and clear.
Yeah, especially your main CTA.
Yes. This is not the place to be clever.
Yeah. So put a big button here that says read more or
read case study.
Like read case study. But let's jump in to actually see the case study as well, just to dig into it.
There it is. Drove 20% increased customer acquisition. I should have seen that on the very first page.
Yes.
I should see that here. Exactly.
Not even here, like it should have been like here, like in some way, you should have told me the impact. I have had to click through 3 pages to get to this. And this is good. Like this is actually telling me you drove customer acquisition up 20%. That's big. That's not
absolutely
like a fluke or something super easy to do. So this is really powerful, but it's far too deep in for me to like actually get that very quickly.
I see something else I want to comment on. The following case study is based on a real world project that contributes you. Be careful with your wording. The following case study is based on a real world project, makes it sound immediately like you made this up.
Yeah.
Don't say based on. You know what I mean? You just forget about the first sentence entirely. The second sentence, I understand. This project is bound by an NDA.
Yeah.
That you can keep, that you can and should keep. It's an important disclaimer, and I like the way that you've done it here. But get rid of that first sentence. It makes it sound like maybe you fabricated some of this.
I'm also wondering, okay, so you take this out. I'm just looking at the page overall. This is really powerful. This is great because it also stands out and absolutely catches your attention as soon as you land on this page. But then I'm the other pieces and like, does this need to take all of this space? Like this feels like a side note.
Nope.
And this one is an interesting, like, I don't know if you need this either to be like right up front. It could be underneath, like right here, view PDF version or something like that. So that, again, you're bringing more relevant information into the first fold of where somebody lands instead of requiring them to work.
This should start in my field of vision. I agree with you completely.
Yeah. Having scrolled down here, too much text.
Yep. And you don't start with the idea. You start with the outcome.
Yeah. Where's the outcome? This is where you should start.
Outcome comes first. And here's the other thing.
Yeah.
Unless there's more. Can you scroll down a little bit?
Okay. I did not realize that. I thought that was going to be the photo. That was
the outcome. I mean, the outcome should be reiterating what's at the top, that 20% increase. That's the outcome. I don't see anything where she has the outcome there.
Oh, I think
I don't see any outcome. I just read it real quick.
Yeah, I think I haven't read the whole thing because again, it's a lot of text, but I think this is what you can now see what your recruiter would be trying to do live as we're thinking through this. I feel
It's
like
really confusing.
this is a summary version of this, is what I'm assuming, because this talks through the process more in depth. Or it's just like maybe the process is just underneath. Maybe a better structure to explain like what is going on in each section would be helpful. And then, like you said, order it in a way that is in the order of what the person cares about, which is outcome first.
Yes.
And
Outcome, problem, the work you did, what you learned.
yeah,
Okay. That's it. But like the idea is nebulous. Like, who cares about the idea? What problem were you trying to solve?
yeah, I'm also looking at some of the stuff is also like so small in font size. Like it's not, the table concept is interesting because it's like, okay, you can get a quick snapshot, but
Yes.
two issues I have with it. One, it's like actually not super readable. So it's not fulfilling its purpose of being a quick snapshot because I really have to work to read it.
Yep.
But the other thing is like, again, outcomes should be like what you're communicating first. Or if
Yes.
you want to put this as context, that's fine, but at least make it like really easy to skim and the key outcomes are right next to it. Think also about the hierarchy of like, what do you want people to look at? Because as soon as you put like a yellow box here, like I'm looking at the yellow box. Is that the key thing you want me to take away?
Yes.
And it seems like probably not in this case, because that's context.
There's some alignment issues too from left to right. You see where the headlines don't quite line up with the text to the right. And then we're going from 1 to 2 columns in the content, like 1 and 2.
Yes.
Stick with one column. Okay. There's too much. Nothing is aligned with anything.
Yes. It's confusing. So basically a couple of big ones. Yeah. So we talked about like, put this right up front. Don't make us click into 3 things to get here. Secondly, remove non-critical information. Third, structure it better so it's easier to skim. Fourth, remove text. And then fifth, like just make it skimmable. Make it skimmable in terms of like actually how it's organized. Give me the first set of information I want right up front. It also sounds like, even though like the headline is really good, I don't see.
That's the outcome.
Yeah,
this is not an outcome.
This is not the outcome. I don't see the actual bullet points that should be the supporting evidence for that here, anywhere else. Like all
Agreed.
of it seems like descriptors.
Agreed. Outcome is what changed, what got better, what difference was made, you know.
Yeah. So I think the way that I would restructure this, aside from the visual pieces, which by the way do matter because these are UX portfolios.
Yes.
If you're saying I'm a designer and a researcher, like people will expect you to be, your portfolio is evidence of how good your work is. So make sure that's taken care of. But if I were to restructure this, I would leave this up top. But then I would put like maybe 2 bullet points and say like, how did we increase? Like, what were the brand insights? We discovered actually that people maybe didn't, I'm making it up, but they didn't like how, they didn't relate to the messaging at all. Or
what was the problem?
Yeah, what was the, like, what are the big things we found and what did we change to like change, get this 20%? That's huge.
Yes, and yes.
Post that, what would we put next? Like this team and stuff like that, I feel like I would put, I don't think that's like really key.
Problem. What problem were you trying to solve? You want to detail, if you're going to go into the detailed part of the case study, you want to talk about, if you need to talk about the problem in more detail past what you just suggested, which is dead on. If you need to talk more about the problem, that comes first, right? Yeah. Why was this an issue for this company? Why was it hurting them? Why was it, why was what was hurting users or customers also hurting the company? And then what work did you decide to do to solve it, right? To figure it out. How did you figure this out? So findings, I haven't read it, okay, but the findings part may be applicable there. Just say we did some research, here's what we learned, and then here's what we did based on those learnings.
Yes.
Okay. This is our plan of action.
Yeah. The order of this is confusing also because you go from like into like empathy mapping, which is probably like the process to get to it. But yeah, exactly to your point. So outcomes, problem statement, like in one sentence, like make it really easy for me to identify that. And then the findings, like, again, it's buried in so much text that, trust me, no one will read. So if it's like spotted during the usability test, like, okay, what did you learn? I think would be like the key issues, like major issue with usability uncovered. I don't really need to know. I don't think I need to know the method like up here. It could be in that like table that you make skimmable, like methods that you that you had up front. That's fine.
Yes.
But again, like it's way too much text for me to. So let's see, what was the actual insight? We found that the app and the new product line both had low brand recall, as the brand name was nowhere to be seen as part of the display digital kiosk. Based on qualitative interviews, the customers and app users could be attracted, retained if they were able to associate it with a renowned brand of 50 years. So this can be said in one sentence, and it is not natural or super easy to be succinct, but it is crucial. So redo it 3 times. If you have to write this version, which is like maybe your first version, then say what can I remove? How can I say this in one sentence?
Right. Like Store UX, when I read this, okay, the next to last sentence is the one. In smaller clustered stores, the device was not visible at a glance because it had to be placed at the back of the store to manage space. That's your problem. Okay, that should be first in front of everything else. We found the device was part of a bigger display. Like, I'm done right now. What was wrong? Tell me what was wrong. Quickly. You have to be ruthless with yourself when you write. Okay, you really have to be ruthless. Imagine the person reading it has zero patience to look through it, because that's the truth. All right, I hate to say that, but it's really true.
No, it's true. Even when I'm looking at this, like there's so much text. I was just looking at the bolded pieces, which are spotted during usability tests. That's not like a really great, like that's not the, Yeah,
I mean, and this goes for, online articles and videos and whatever. And I'm going to say this, unless that article is written by one of us, or if it's written by Sarah Duty, who's also excellent, okay, ignore the advice you get online. It is completely wrong-headed. All these articles about great UX portfolios or how to build a stellar UX portfolio suggest all this stuff. It is not going to help you.
Oh gosh, that sounds like the wrong way. Less is more, folks. We've said before, we'll say it every time we have this conversation.
I look at these articles every week and my blood pressure goes through the roof. It's such bad advice. It's eye candy for other UX and other design people. Those are not your audience. Those people are not your audience. Okay, recruiters are.
Agreed.
Ignore that stuff.
Agreed. Well, we have spent a bunch of time on this one, so I'm going to move to the next portfolio, and I'm going to pull out a design one this time, so we have a little variety. So here we go. We have. It's going to take me a second to know where to look on this one, because there's a lot going on and it's not in a format that my brain is used to processing. Again, a good thing about live portfolio reviews is you can see what your recruiter is going to be doing. And if the first reaction is, I don't know where I'm supposed to focus, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, that's right. It's not a common structure. For example, left nav. It's not that's uncommon, but it's more common to have links across the top. And if you're going to do a left navigation, it has to really look different. It has to look like a navigation menu. Right now, this is just sort of a list of text.
Yeah.
It doesn't read as a menu. You got to differentiate between if work is a headline and daily UI challenge is one of the subcategories under work, there needs to be a visual difference between the two. And again, if those are links, they need to look like links, different color, underline, some visual attribute that says this is a link. I am clickable. Okay.
Yes.
Can't just be a list of text. I know everybody does this. It's wrong.
I was going to say, like, if you do, okay, so these are all design projects you've done. If you were to do an audit of your own portfolio and say, okay, how do I need to design? Like, I'm designing a product. A user landing on this page would also be confused if they would like find a user product. So do that like heuristic evaluation, do that audit on your own portfolio to be like, okay, what are the basics that I need to get right to show for anybody to be able to consume this, A, and B, to prove that I know how to do that well, right?
And these these titles aren't doing you any favors. Daily UI challenge, pet bank, countdown timer. Like, it tells me what you designed, but so what?
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Again, I know I'm being blunt, but what has to come across is what was the value of that work, not what the work was, not what you designed. Why did you design it? Why was this a thing? Why did you do this work in the first place? What problem were you trying to solve? What outcome were you trying to get for, whoever it was? That's what has to come forward. This is an art gallery. It's a visual image gallery. Recruiter's going to spend 3 seconds here and bail.
Yeah. Also, the titles don't help because my brain had to work a lot to figure out what these are. Because again, a usual nav bar doesn't have like daily UI challenge, pet bank. So I was like reading them and I was like, what pet bank? Like,
it almost feels like a website promoting those things in a way. Like daily UI challenge is what threw me. It's like, okay, wait, so you provide daily UI challenges for people? Or
actually, what threw me was the 404 page. I was like, is this
that one too? Yeah.
You design a 404 page?
What?
I'm confused. Avoid places. Maybe actually, I feel like a good suggestion would be give your portfolio to a few friends near you and ask them to like live look at it like a usability test. This is a usability test.
Absolutely.
Can they use it? Are they confused? If they are confused, what would you do based on usability test results? You would say, okay, like this is not making sense to people. Let me redesign this.
Also, you have to tell me up front, up top there.
Yeah.
If your specialty is UI, you got to make that clear. If your specialty is UX, you got to make that clear. I'm seeing a lot of UI. I'm seeing some UX. I'm seeing UX/UI, which I would never do. By the way, instead of a slash, use a plus, use an and. All right. It's not either or. It's never either or. It just doesn't send the right message for any number of reasons. Okay. You can use both, but use an and in some way, never a slash. I don't know anything about you. That quote,
yes,
it's an esoteric, inspirational, abstract kind of like, I mean, the designer in me reads that and goes, yeah, that's really cool. But recruiters, hiring managers, people are going to hire you. It doesn't tell them anything about you, about your capability, about your experience, about anything.
Yeah. And it's the first thing on the page. So it's like prime real estate as well. I would say, like, would you, for example, it's a hi, I'm Virginia. You maybe don't need like the hi, whatever, take out the extra elements, maybe just leave.
You need your name up there like a logo or something, like a typical website.
Yeah. And then like
the left corner.
Would you put like, so actually one way I'm thinking of redesigning, so other than the like challenges we talked about with nav, you would maybe put over here, like you said, UX designer, X years of experience, whatever, like one sentences. And then these should actually be 20, like that 20% customer acquisition improvement.
Exactly. Bullets.
And that way,
these cards aren't doing you any favors.
Then what you're doing is you're putting just essential information up front. And you are putting outcomes on like right underneath that. So that's what I'm reading next. So your name, this is what, you do UX, you've been doing it for 6 years. Here are the outcomes you've driven. Like, that's perfect. Just do that.
Yeah. What was I going to say? The rollovers are problematic as well. Number one, because the roller doesn't reveal anything that's really impactful or valuable. And the other problem is on mobile, they're not going to work at all. You know what I mean? You don't have a hover effect.
Yeah. Would you say like a better design might just be like a simpler thing where you just put like headline of outcome, which is linked, and like maybe like one detail underneath, or like what, like where you did this work, then another bullet? Like, would bullets be a better way to design this? Or like, what are the ones, right?
Like we saw in the last one, okay? Like we saw in the last portfolio where it was, and outcome wasn't there, but it'd be outcome, industry, project.
Correct.
Whatever. So keep that image, but on the right of it, have bullets. So instead of two columns, I can't even put up the right number with my fingers. Instead of 2 columns of images, keep the images on the left, but to the right, have some text there that says, here's what the outcome of this work was. Here's who it was for. Here's what I did. You know what I mean? Tell me some of the story right now.
Yeah.
This again assumes that recruiters are going to be interested enough to click through and read. They're not. If they don't get any information right here that matters to them, they're gone.
Yeah, 100%. And it looks like Virginia is actually on the live. So hi, Virginia. Thanks for joining. And thank you.
I'm going to salute your bravery. Okay, because it really does take a lot of courage to put yourself out there and do this kind of thing. And I want you to understand, I want everybody to understand, none of this is personal criticism. None of this means that you're not good at this, or you don't know what you're doing, or none of that. Okay. I said this to somebody yesterday. Writing your own case studies or doing your own self-promotion of any kind is the hardest job you will ever have. I hate it.
Yeah.
Thank God my bio hasn't changed much in like 10 years. The only thing that's changed is like the number of students or number of clients. Because if I was forced to rewrite it right now, I would avoid it and procrastinate and not that's like, no, I'm not doing it. Okay. So I want to be clear about this. Our goal here is to help you, because it's recruiters, as you've probably gotten the sense right now, it's an unforgiving job market out there. All right. And people are just not going to give you the time that you deserve. So we're trying to arm you with things that, allow you to sort of transcend that.
Yeah. I +1 to everything Joe said. Super brave to be part of this. So
yes,
kudos for doing that. And we are going to be brutal, but only to help you, so that if someone else is, someone who doesn't know you is going to review these, we want to make sure that you are in the best shape possible.
Yes, absolutely.
We actually got a question from Virginia. Would it be better to have less projects and more details?
Here's my thought. Okay. My personal belief, and I'm interested, Kritika, to see what you think, because my thing is, I think the minimum case studies, I get asked this all the time. For me, the minimum is 3.
Yes.
Okay. And the 3 have to be really solid. I think that once you move past 3, the bar for quality and impact is raised. So if you show me more than 3 case studies, they better all be fantastic. You cannot have filler in there, unless you stick those at the very end. But they're really not doing you any favors. Any case study that doesn't start with an outcome that really matters to somebody or impacted you, using your word, kind of, it needs to fight for its right to be there. So to me, less is more if they're all excellent.
I agree. I was going to say the exact same thing. I was going to say, look, like nobody that's getting this portfolio is going to go and see each of these, right? So you probably have some projects that were more impressive than others. Keep those so that the attention goes where you want it to, like direct the attention to your most impressive work.
I'm looking at the list again too. Like daily UI challenge, I would probably get rid of. Screams, inexperience. Screams, student work. Screams, you know what I mean? Like 404 page or email receipt. Just on their face, I don't know that there's any value there. So things like that, I think I probably would eliminate.
So agreed. We would put less projects. In terms of details, we haven't actually clicked, and we should in a minute.
Let's look.
But I think to answer Virginia, your question, it would be like more relevant details upfront. So outcome, and then what was the exact, like we saw on the previous one, like this was my role, or this was like the methods that I used, but those can be sub bullets. The outcome needs to be the top thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think more than 6 in general is probably too much. I mean, you can always put in a line that says, additional case studies available upon request, and have those in a PDF or something. If you're someone who has a lot of experience and you've got a lot of good stories to tell, that's great, but you don't want to put it all, overwhelm somebody with it.
I was actually going to say, like, also the fewer case studies you have, the more time you have to make each of those really spend time on them and make them powerful. Yes. The more you spread yourself thin on like more case studies, like nobody's reading that. Each one looks less polished because you put less thought and effort into it. So less is more. Yeah. But I'm just trying to decide which one of these to jump into. Do you have a preference?
I'm looking for something that's close to a real project.
What about vegan ebook landing page? That might be Also, by the way, there's a little bit of text here that's like somewhat unreadable, but I'm going to jump into vegan ebook text. Okay. Okay, so it's just the image of what was.
Are they all like that?
I don't know. I'm going to try. Let's try daily UI challenge.
Oh, and the you may also like wasn't part of that landing page. That's part of the portfolio. Is that right?
Sorry.
Go ahead and scroll down on this one. Let's see.
Yeah. So this is, okay, these are all part of the daily UI challenges. Okay, I think. So anywhere where people are confused as they're scrolling, not good. Go ahead, Joe. Did you want to jump in here?
Yeah, if these are all UI challenges, you got to get rid of, all right, I'm going to tell you right now, you have to get rid of that category.
Yeah.
If this is all speculative work, you need to present it as, concept for this. In other words, the minute you say these are all daily UI challenges, that screams to that recruiter, person has no experience, gone. Okay, whether that's true or not, that's the message that's being sent. So, and if you're going to do these, okay, take any one of these, doesn't matter which one.
Yeah.
When I click through to a case study, what I need to see is a narrative that says, here's the outcome of this work, or if you don't have an outcome, if it's not real work, here's the problem that I was trying to solve. This app is underperforming. It's hard to use because A, B, C, D, and E. I did some research to figure out why that was a problem. And here's the work I did to solve it. You got to explain this. It can't just be decoration like this,
yeah, I was just, I think Virginia said that was just a landing page. I guess the point is we are confused, which is not the right outcome that you want.
Yeah, what's just
if there's more meat to this, like, hey, I built this landing page for a business, like somebody's actual ebook, that's pretty cool. So like, maybe like talk through, again, the way I would structure it is say, landing page that led to X number or percentage increase. If there was a before and after, that's way more powerful. Signups. So you have your outcome. Then you can say, like context around it, like, hey, there was a landing page needed to be like in one sentence. I'm saying it out loud, so it's going to take a little longer, but like rewrite it.
okay. Yeah.
And you may want to say like, okay, so we were building a landing page for vegan cookbook. Goal was, or problem was, to make sure that download rates go up.
Yeah, there has to be a story here. You can't just show the work. It's not enough.
Yeah, I think this one just doesn't have, there's not enough meat for us to critique. That is the critique. I'm just going to click through and see if there's something more. Yeah, I think a lot of them seem to be just like the image of what you did, which is like, it's fine to put that, but outcome, what was the problem you were solving? And then you can talk a little bit more about like, okay, like, how did I solve it? This is the solution, etc. Yeah,
I mean, if the goal here is to get a job working in, UI or UX, these have to be case studies. They can't just be an art gallery of your work. You've got to tell the story. There has to be rationale and reason and research to some degree. The most important thing that you need, and here's the other reality I think we should at least touch quickly, is that if you're entry level, quote unquote, here's another unfortunate reality. Okay. To me, I'm sure to Kritika, to everybody else, entry level means no experience. It means I haven't worked anywhere. It means I don't have, whatever. So you should be able, theoretically, to get hired, to be hired with no experience, right? That's the purpose of an entry level position. However, that term gets used, and companies, unfortunately, have it in their heads now that entry level means 2 years of experience, 3 years of experience. They still want actual work experience. So you have to have some actual real work in your portfolio in order to get a job, even in some cases to get an internship, as ridiculous as it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So whether that's, I post often about volunteer opportunities that I see, or places you can actually do work.
Yeah.
for organizations, you got to have something that's real in there in order to be considered.
It also sounds like some of these may actually be projects, but the fact is, like, we are confused as to whether that's the case, which is what you want to avoid. Like, you want somebody seeing your portfolio to be like, this is somebody who knows what they're doing. They have like experience. This is what they've like, just because it makes it easier for you to get hired. So, and that's where the outcomes, the context would help just to build that credibility. But we will move. Do you want to say anything else on this one, or should we move to the next as well?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Okay. Virginia, I hope that was helpful too.
Yeah, Virginia, let us know if you have any other questions. Happy to take them. And kudos again for being super brave by putting that out there. Hopefully the feedback actually helped. Okay, cool. So we will get into another one. This is a UX researcher's portfolio, as is evident. Okay, I have thoughts, but would you like to share your thoughts first?
Yeah. The first thing that struck me, quite honestly, is that I love this little top menu. It's very simple typographically, but there's something about it that I really like. It's professional, it's confident, it's like, I dig that. I think that's really good. However, this image, I don't know why I'm looking at that. I don't know why it's taken up the majority of the screen. I don't see anything in my field of vision, again, that tells me what your value is or what you've done or who you've done it for as a researcher. Again, recruiters want proof. They want safe bets. They want to immediately see proof this person has done work for real companies. Companies have paid them, which means they've placed bets and said, yeah, this person is good at what they do. That's proof.
Yeah.
This big image of Griffith Observatory, which I assume has something to do with your work experience or
education,
maybe your education or your PhD or something. It's just not telling me anything. This isn't doing you any favors. All the things we've talked about so far, like having a testimonial or having a statement that says, here's who I've worked for and here's what I made better, and getting the summaries of your case studies up on this screen would do you much better. So I'll be quiet now.
No, that was great. I think the only thing I'd add on this is that it looks really good, but like maybe spacing between these elements could be a little larger. Yep. It's pushing together a little bit. So I have to work to like, what are the actual pieces, but I do otherwise like it. Agree with you. This is your above the fold. This is your prime real estate. You have 30 seconds. What are you telling the person? You're a research leader. Great, not enough. So remove the image or make it, like, actually it's a very pretty image, but I don't know why it's there also. So yeah, I would maybe remove it or and add more context as to why are you amazing up top.
Yeah, with images, images have to be meaningful to the audience, not to you. To the audience. So a recruiter who knows nothing about you or what you've done or where you've been, that image has to be meaningful to them.
Yeah.
If it isn't, it shouldn't be there.
Yeah. Okay, I'm scrolling. Okay.
Contributed to over 360,000 in new revenue, cybersecurity. Okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Yes.
Altered Microsoft product leadership discussion on Extreme Communicators. Okay, those two things belong way up top where I can see them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't even read that as fast as you did because I was starting top down, and so I was reading this. I was like, okay, that's cool, but then I was gonna read this. Then I was gonna read this. This one doesn't really mean too much.
Yeah, see, I'm scanning. I'm scanning for things I care about.
Yeah, this one. So you're pulling my attention to. Again, you have 30 seconds. What do you want to tell them first? I would maybe cut this whole thing. Or move this text up, whichever. Keep mixed methods, UX researcher, less words, less cognitive load. With 10 plus years of experience. PhD, cool, you can keep that as well. But yes, then I would put these two.
You don't need it though. PhD is in your name, is in your title already.
That is
but get that blurb up top. Okay. That tells me what you do, who you are. You're a researcher. Okay. You've got 10 years of experience. That's a plus.
Yeah.
Get that up top. But all this stuff in that first paragraph,
yes,
that could be anybody.
Yes.
Okay. There's nothing unique about that. It may be true. Those may all be true statements, but it's not nearly as compelling as the two bullets there.
Let's actually look at like what's in here. So for example, major in cognitive, minor in quantitative, like, is that something I need to know? Is that something, it may be meaningful to you, but is that something I need to know to hire you?
No,
If
not
it's
up
a
front.
quantitative role, maybe, but like, yeah, like mostly you can cut this. Leverages creativity, curiosity, like all these things that, so this is what I'd say, show, don't tell, because if we don't know who you are, we don't know whether to trust your claims about how creative or curious you are. And
Right.
anyone can say it. So what sets you apart is to show it.
That's right.
So I would cut that. This same thing with this, like anyone can say trusted. Industries, right? Like this could be like something interesting, especially if you're applying to like roles in this,
Yes.
but it's somewhere in the middle of this where unless I like really wanted, which I probably wouldn't if I was scanning through 100 resumes, I would miss that.
Yeah, bullets, quick highlights. I agree with you completely. Get it out there somehow where it's really, really clear and obvious. You scan and you get it and you go, oh, okay, cool.
And holistic understanding of user needs and journeys. I kind of like assume a researcher should be doing that also and dig into context of people, problem, solution. So again, I would say cut.
Yes.
So just looking at this, like there was maybe one thing that was meaningful content in there that was in the middle of so much text, no one would see it.
This is your bio. This is all your bio.
Yeah.
And your bio is not what's going to sell you. I know all the advice that everybody gets says, you got to come out with your bio. Is it important? Yes. But no one's even going to bother to look at it unless they see compelling evidence that you've done the work and gotten results. I'm telling you, this is how this field is right now. Recruiters are not experienced or even knowledgeable in many cases about UX, about research, about product design. They're not. They have no knowledge of any of this stuff. Okay. So the bio means less to them than the work does. So all your points here are absolutely 100% correct.
So again, so we would move, so very specific, we would move this part that I've highlighted up here. We would put these as like bullet points underneath. We would cut this whole thing. And then maybe have like a quick, maybe you could have like a table or like a quick set of bullet points that just say like industries worked in. It seems like there's some stuff here.
This whole thing, I just had a thought.
Yeah.
This whole thing argues for, we've seen a couple things so far where there's like a little sidebar, that had bullets. I mean, you could certainly have a sidebar off to the left or something that had these things that you pointed out as bullet points: AI, cybersecurity, health technology, insurance, these things down below. Okay. Blog posts reaching 3,000 plus readers, presentations at 6 international UX psychology conferences, 250 plus mentees and students. List those.
Yeah.
List them off to the left. Okay. But again, do it in a way where I can quickly go, wow, impressive. I'm still reading.
Yeah. I will say though, maybe what I would do, I'm thinking about the order thing. So you still want the work, like,
yes, agreed.
You get $360,000 in new revenue. Put that first. And then
that's why I say sidebar, like off to the left.
Yeah.
Something that's not as important.
It'd be like additional work or something like that. And then you talk about this because it is very impressive, but it just is like, again, we're reading it right now because we're critiquing it, but I would not have noticed that. Like this is just buried. Okay. Let's see the actual work. Again, outcomes.
That one I like.
You like which part do you like?
Well, it's you're getting towards. I don't think it's as compelling as what's above.
I agree.
But it's at least in the right spirit.
Yeah.
Right. De-risking public scorecards. That's an objective. All right. That's a real problem to solve. These other things is about, well, understanding this or proving that this happens. Not as important.
Yeah, I agree. I would feel like it's stronger if you can put like some of these things to it.
Yes.
Outcomes to it. But yes, better than this for sure is to say like, this is what we were like driving towards. Let's dive into, actually, I'm just looking at the image and the text as well. Influence the CEO to request a redesign of a key growth initiative by identifying brand and legal risks associated with it through interviews and a survey.
I would probably reword that.
Yeah, it was like too many large words that take too much like cognitive.
Well, I think it takes some of the power out of the story as well. When I read that, I kind of get a sense of what took place.
Yeah.
But I think there's a much more impactful way to say that. If you convince them to invest in something, okay,
yeah,
there's just a different, stronger way.
Got it. That's
to put that. You want to talk about minimizing risk. All right. You want to talk about how you proved that there was significant risk there, and then how, you proposed how it was possible to minimize that risk, or something like that.
Yeah.
My words are sort of deserting me, but it could be a lot stronger.
So actually, I didn't even get to the point where you were like thinking about the impact of it, because I was like trying to process the words.
Yeah.
One thing everyone should do is like use Hemingway app. You can paste in your text and it tells you like what grade level is this at. And again, if somebody is like reading 1,000 of these, it should be like second, third grade level of like, it's just obvious what it's saying, because there's layers of cognition. The first layer is understand. The second, like, so just like, what does this mean? And then you go into, okay, is this good or bad? Or like, what does this actually like do? And so I didn't even get to layer 2 because I was still like identifying brand and legal risks associated. Like there's a lot of words, like even identifying, associated, like all of the big words you should just.
Agreed. Completely.
Okay, let's jump into this one. Same comment as the landing. Yeah, same comment as the landing page. Like the
Don't waste my time with this.
Yes, this is low value. It looks like you've done some really good work. Put that up top. Okay, 2 columns. 2 columns hard. Also hard with the hierarchy. I don't know where to look.
Yeah, there's not enough difference between the subheads, like problem, objective, methods. There's not a clear visual difference between the subheads and the text. It all just sort of runs together. The 2 columns make that worse. The fact that both those columns are so wide and there's very little space between them makes that worse. These big dead spaces that occur, these big white spaces that occur because these sentences are so long and they only go for like a line and a quarter or something. It's all really, really super distracting. If you're going to do 2 columns, they got to be tight. All right. They're going to be tight columns, blocks, chunks of text. All right. Physical chunks of text.
I think we said this even with the resume review, is like blur your eyes and look at your content, and where does your eye go, and is it obvious, or is it like being pulled in multiple directions? Is it the right thing that you want people to see? And then relook at that, relook at this based on that. I'm just actually going to try to read it. Cybersecurity reserve wanted to.
Yeah, and I'm not seeing outcome here at all. I mean, I see problem, I see methods, that's good, but you got to lead with what happened. You suggest at the end that the CEO requested a redesign. It's not really the outcome. The outcome is, if you convince them to do a redesign, what was the result of that redesign? What did it get them? Right. And the de-risking thing, that word, that phrase, de-risking, is the story here.
Yeah. This seems like the solution and impact. So it took me a second to find it, but I think this is like the part where
it's not strong enough.
We identified significant brand and legal risks and clarified potential user value of public ratings, control of their security image. It's like I'm not sure what this means. So this is where we're saying like Hemingway app. And I don't have context, so I don't know why does the security control of their security image? I'm not sure what that means. Like, why does that matter?
Tell me what those risks were. Okay. List the risks. Tell me what was at stake. Right? Tell me something that's compelling. Right? This was going to be a problem because they were in danger because, right? When you're talking about legal risks, especially, give me something I can relate to.
Yeah.
It's not enough just to say brand and legal risks. You got to give me something that's concrete, so that, to your point, so I understand what this means and how important it was, how impactful the work was.
Move this here, make it like really obvious and easy for somebody who has no industry context to understand, just really easy to read without using your brain, basically. Then you can talk about the problem. or problem and objective, I feel like you could maybe even like, okay, problem, objective, methods. Do we need team? Do you feel like that's useful information upfront?
Nope.
Cup team, my
You could
role.
mention in the content that you collaborated with, a product team.
Yeah. Okay. And even like you could keep time, but you could also remove it. Like basically what I really need to know up top is like this, and then maybe like what were the like how did you influence actually? So you've told me you influenced, but what did you uncover that led to that? Those are the things I'm looking for. With this on top, solution impact on top, and then everything else in a nice narrative where it's easy to follow along as to like why this was a huge issue. This is what we did. This is what we uncovered.
Yeah. And I know you said this already, but I'm just having a thought and I want to throw this out there for public consumption. Time makes me nervous. Having that there makes me nervous because we all know that the minute you say, well, I need 2 weeks of research, the powers that be go, we can't wait 2 weeks. Let's go slow everything down. You got to be careful about sharing that type of information. So you could inadvertently suggest to somebody like, okay, this is a person that's going to want weeks of research and they'll pass for that reason. You know what I mean? Like, be careful about the information you volunteer, unless it really helps make your case in some way.
Yeah.
If that's an extremely short duration of time or something, then maybe mention it. But otherwise, I don't know that that's of any value. It could potentially backfire.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go down and see.
And that's just the actual scorecard itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do 2 columns. Show the scorecard on the left or the right. Show the scorecard on the right, and then put all that text in one column on the left. And I don't have a problem with the length of this at all. You know what I mean? The brevity is not a problem. It doesn't have to be a novel. So I think all the things you already pointed out, if you make those improvements and you get this into just 2 columns, image and text, I think you're in much better shape.
I agree. I was just thinking like, and then if there's anything special about this project, you could put that underneath. So if you have image, key bullets here about solution impact, problem, objective, method, cool. And anything specific that like really stood out, you can put in lower in case people want to dig in. But
key findings or something.
Yeah, but otherwise I think it's fine as well. Cool. Anything else on this one? I think we're also hitting time. So just checking in. Yeah, anything else on this one?
No, I don't think so.
I just wanted to bring up one last one in the last couple of minutes before we wrap up. And I know you and I were talking about this before, which is we won't go through the whole one, but I noticed that there were a couple of people who would put in like Behance or Medium based portfolio. So I just wanted to, I pulled up one just as an example. I just wanted you to like, as somebody that's like, again, hired a ton of people, looked at a bunch of resumes or a bunch of portfolios. What would you think of if you saw Mediums or even Behance? Like, do you think about them differently? And should someone try to like create, I don't maybe have the skill or time to like build a whole, maybe I'm a researcher, like build a whole website, or I don't know how to use a no-code app. Like, what would you think if somebody put it in a Medium or a Behance instead?
I think that Behance, let's tackle that first because it's easier. For some people, Behance is all they've got. All right. And in some cases, it's maybe at the moment, at least all they have time for. It's okay as a first shot. It is very difficult, I believe, to get hired using Behance as a portfolio. It just doesn't, the format is too restrictive. It doesn't allow you to tell the story in a way that needs to be told. It doesn't allow you to do any of the progressive disclosure things that you and I have talked about today or in the past. So if that's all you got and that's all you have time for, absolutely, it's fine. But eventually you're going to have to transcend that and build an actual website, okay, that has navigation and custom, ways to get those bullets up front and all those kinds of things. So that's the easier part of the conversation. This, using a Medium article as your portfolio, in my opinion, bad idea. You're asking a recruiter to read an article. That's an instant no. Remember what we said earlier, okay? 30 seconds is about all they have to spend. There's no way they're doing all this reading. And this looks like it's well done at a glance. I haven't read the content, obviously, but there's obviously a lot here. And I am sure that it's valuable, right? I'm sure that there's a good story being told here. No one's going to read it. You cannot use an article as a substitute for a portfolio. You have to build a portfolio, period. A Medium article can be something that's referenced inside that portfolio or in your resume, in your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
That's great. But this is a novel. I mean, it's just not happening. Just not happening.
I just wanted to end with that question because I do think, I mean, like, I go both ways in this because I do understand that if you really don't have time, something's better than nothing. And like maybe like smaller companies would be like open to it. But if you are, and just thinking about the context of like the job market, if you're applying to anything because in like a 10-person startup, I feel like it's not going to work, is the problem. And so, yeah, I agree with you broadly speaking. It does seem like there's some like good stuff in here, I would say. Like,
yeah,
so
it's detailed.
And I would say like, you can probably build a website pretty easily if you just use like a free Webflow template or a free Wix template. You don't have to be like amazing with creating a website. In fact, if you use a template, it'll probably come with like an inbuilt like nav that makes sense and that kind of thing, which is to your advantage. But yeah, I would, that's my 2 cents.
And let's say this, and I've had this conversation with people many times, and it's always initially difficult, and then they sort of reluctantly admit that, okay, you're right. Imagine how long it took to write this article. Imagine how long it took to get all those artifacts together to put in this article. Okay, all those images, all that well thought out stuff. You could have built a website in the same amount of time with any of the tools that are out there that allow you to very quickly get up and running. Okay, so what I hear all the time is people say to me, well, I don't have time. I don't have time. You know what? I'm going to be blunt, not buying it. Not buying it, because that is an excuse that I tell myself sometimes. There's just no time for that. It's not true. Okay, there are plenty of times when I spend hours upon hours upon hours on social media, or I spend hours upon hours upon hours, binge watching a series. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have downtime. You should, but don't tell yourself, I don't have time. That is an untrue statement. It is. You can find time to do it. What's really happening there when you say, I don't have time, that's fear. All right. You're afraid to do it. That's what it is. All right. It's, I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm worried I'm not going to be able to do this. Or like, where do I even start? It's overwhelming. It's a very daunting task. It feels like climbing a mountain. I totally get that. But the longer you tell yourself, I don't have time, just keeps you from doing it.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
No, I think that's very fair. And I think to your point, sometimes a task is not actually that big, but it feels big. And so we procrastinate away starting that. And we've all done it. I think that these like cartoons and memes and like Instagram, which are like procrastinated for a week, sending an email that took 5 minutes. So this might be one of those situations, especially given the number of tools and templates out there. So whatever your hack is to overcome that procrastination, implement. And just,
I mean, to me, let it suck. Okay. You have to start somewhere, and you have to allow your first draft to be garbage. It's okay. All right. I said this probably 3 times, and it's only Wednesday. I've said it 3 times to people this week already. And that is, you cannot create and edit at the same time. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. You have to put it out there first, edit it later, fix it later, make it better later. The important part at the start is getting it out. If you're unwilling to give yourself that grace, that latitude to just, all right, let me just figure this out. Doesn't mean you have to publish it. It just means put something out there without judging it. All right. Without being too hard on yourself. I don't know if we have time for this, but there are a couple of really good questions.
I was going to say, I wanted to take a couple of those as well. Do you want to pick the one that stood out to you the most?
Yeah, the one that stood out is how to balance information for a recruiter and then for a hiring manager who could be a designer. Here's the deal. This is why we talk about the idea of progressive disclosure a lot, where you give me bullet points, okay, and then I click through and I get a larger summary, And then I'm an advocate of having a third step that says, read the entire case study. The only person who's going to read the entire case study is another designer or UX person who has that experience. Okay. But here's the deal. You got to get past the recruiter first. And then in a lot of cases, you got to get past the hiring manager second. Both of those people have no time to deal with all those details. Okay. So your primary objective, if you have to sacrifice one for the other, I'm telling you, the primary objective is you've got to get past the gatekeepers, the recruiter and the hiring manager, who have less time and less interested, in a lot of cases, less knowledge.
Yeah. I was going to say,
you can speak to that stuff in an interview with the UX person.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar also. It's like if you follow the pattern of putting outcome first and then giving context after, even the designer or the UX person is going to be very impressed with the outcome.
Correct.
So I wouldn't underplay it. Like I wouldn't think, oh, they don't care about this, they care about my technique, etc. They also care about your impact. Like if you have done something incredible in their industry, like they're going to be like, oh, I want to know how they solved this problem, or how they, like, that is a crazy outcome, because everyone knows how hard it is to drive outcomes. So I think like if you put that information up front, it's still valuable even for the designer or the UX researcher, whoever that may be. Yeah. Anything you wanted to add on that question before we take one or two more?
No, that was my whole spiel. And I think I agree with everything you just said.
Yeah. Another one, should the portfolio be responsive? Would recruiters look at it a mobile version? Okay, yeah. I think we answered that one very quickly.
Even if they don't, it doesn't matter. All right. You need to show that you're familiar with responsive design.
Yeah.
If your website or portfolio is not responsive, that sends a message. This person does not understand what web design or app design or anything is like in 2023. Responsive is a requirement for entry to get in the door. It's non-negotiable. You have to show that you understand that.
I would also say, again, like if you use a lot of these templates, a lot of responsiveness issues will be dealt with by default in a template. So it's not even something you necessarily have to like test it, check it, but you probably won't even have to do very much to make a website responsive if you're using like a Webflow or a Wix or something like that.
Agreed.
And we'll take one final question. What if my design from my past working experience is under NDA? Do you have any suggestion on how to show it on the portfolio? So we did see the first one we saw today was like that. And I think that was actually like a reasonable way to deal with it, is to say like, this was the industry, and then like put a one-liner somewhere as a footnote or side note that's not maybe the main thing that they see, but that people can see to say, okay, like this is, I haven't given the exact company name because it's under NDA, but you can still talk about the work. Like if you don't tell me the name of the company, you can definitely tell me the impact. Where NDAs come into play is like, okay, like you can't say both. If I know you did this for this company, then it tends to be a problem. But if I know you like raised customer acquisition improved 20%, like, and I don't know who you did it for, it's still pretty anonymous. So I think that should
be. You're not breaking the terms of your NDA. I strongly suggest anyone who has an NDA, read it. Okay. And read specifically what it forbids. All right. Your job is to stay within the boundaries of that NDA. Typically what NDAs cover are proprietary information. Okay. Proprietary trade secrets, anything that identifies that company, anything that specifically identifies its product, anything that is unique. Proprietary, again, is the big word, to that organization. You can absolutely talk about a project and the work that you did and the problems you encountered and what kind of research you did and what the findings were and, you know, what outcomes were achieved. You can talk about all that stuff as long as you don't identify anything that can absolutely only be connected to that organization.
And maybe
so, I agree with all that.
Very specifics on like exactly what you did, you can redact. Hey, we changed this specific like button or something, which is okay, because that may not be the level of detail that the hiring manager needs anyway. So yeah, like Joe said, just make sure you read it so you know what you're not allowed to put. Usually if you anonymize and you keep things a little bit like, you don't get the exact detail of what you changed in a product, it should be okay.
You can show process sketches as well. Okay. I mean, you can always, as you're thinking through a problem on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper or something, or boxes and arrows that detail how someone moves through something. There are always things that are non-identifiable that you can certainly share that still show how you think, and how you solve problems and what your value is in those areas.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Like even if there are things you can't share, you want to share outcomes, you want to show how you thought, how did you achieve those outcomes, and those will usually be pieces that you can share. So like you said, +1 on that as well. But we have run over on time as usual.
As always.
As always. But I just wanted to take a minute to thank everyone for tuning in. We hope this was helpful. Thank you, Joe, also for being so generous with your time and for joining us on these lives.
Thank you for yours as well. I love these things.
Thank you. And I feel like they are useful just from like the amount of reactions we get from everyone. So hopefully this helped all of you out there. If you have specific questions, keep reaching out to us, let us know, and we'll try to do these every so often whenever when we can get that going to continue to help as well. But thanks, everyone. It was great seeing you all.
Thanks. Take care, folks.
All right. We're going to ask. So this is going to be like a moment when we just ask Satvik to turn off the light and confirm to us. So it's going to be like a quick